Hello guys and welcome to Supreme Ruler Ultimate with our next playthrough here. We just finished off the modern day Muslim playthrough and now we're jumping into World War II with the United States and Japan. Now this is going to be an interesting scenario. It's going to be a PvPvE scenario where there are two ways to win. The PvP way to win is, of course, we reenact history, we go to war with each other, and somebody comes out the winner, either by, complete conquest or surrender of the other player. And the PvE way to win is that whether we ally together or not, if we can successfully wipe out the entire allies or axis, then we can end the game in a draw. Now, that won't automatically end the game if it happens. We still have to agree to it. And now, just to clarify, this is still a PvP playthrough. We will be uploading this series roughly at about the same time and roughly about the same pace. We are not going to peek at each other's playthroughs, so if you end up watching both, which by the way, you can find his in the description below, do not comment spoilers or advice. If you have watched both of them, do not give each of us tips on what the other one is doing or saying. We do not want to hear that. We want a nice, fair play game. Alright, and as per usual, this game does have some desync issues, so we're going to try to get some stuff done at the start ASAP. I'm going to turn off espionage. No, I'm going to turn up espionage. I lied. Turn off insurgency and government support because I don't want to be spending anything there. While I'm still getting set up, we'll deal with that later. I'm going to lock off uranium from being sold. I do not want uranium to be sold because we are probably going to end up making nukes. Rubber I'll figure out later, but I know I also don't want to sell military goods currently. I want to stockpile those because they're very sparse in this scenario. We also need to go to our finance minister. We need to lock him off from literally everything. I do want to get my spending up. We're playing a high GDP country, and thus we can take good advantage of tax income to pump up a lot of these other spendings. Social assistance is just going to stay off because usually that's too much. Max out every tax for the time being. I don't need to do this. This is just how I play the game, and I'll adjust it later if I feel like I need to. We're also going to go over here to military. We're going to want to have our military ready to fight sooner rather than later. I'm going to lower maintenance and training. But I'm going to give this guy full initiative. He's not going to be able to change military spending. We're going to raise military salaries now, actually, rather than later, so that our amount of personnel doesn't change too drastically. We're also going to have to go to our unit pathing. Do not let air units path over neutral regions. Do not let merchant marines path through neutral regions. And for our global rules of engagement, I'm going to give them high initiative. Loss tolerance of low just for now. Contact options engage, apply to all. Lock off all the minister permissions for my research minister. I'm going to turn on auto build for pretty much everything. Put it on balanced and quality over quantity. And we're going to unpause at the slowest speed just to avoid desync and start looking through everything else. So let's start looking at research opportunities first. We're going to look at units first. So I want the M3 half track. Usually I just go with foot-based units in World War II. I usually don't go with non-foot-based units, but this time around I'm going to include motorized mechanized units due to the nature of how I see this playthrough going. Anyway, we're not going to care about any of this old infantry. I'm not going to care about paratroopers or anything. I'm not going to use them. M1 combat cars, is that better than what we have? I mean, a little bit. It's a little bit better, yeah, probably. Has attack of 3 and 1, can go 320. This has attack of 3 and 1. Okay, this is worse. I lied. So I'm not going to get that. There's an anti-tank gun that will definitely be an improvement. We're going to get that as a gun upgrade. I'm going to leave the fucking chemical howitzers alone for the time being. There's an anti-air gun that sucks. We don't need that. Supply trucks and pontoon bridging could be useful. So I'll go ahead and research those. They're really quick researches. We don't need airships. That's World War I tech. P-35 looks absolutely fantastic to have. Tactical bombers, we have some choices. There's the Helldiver, the BT-1, and the Devastator. The Helldiver is the only one that cannot go on a carrier. By the way, I'm not really going to follow the United States carrier doctrine very much. in this playthrough. These guys all seem very similar. I'm not gonna lie. I think the BT-1 is mostly superior here. I can't find many ways that the Helldiver is better. Yeah, I'm gonna get the BT-1. Its range is better and its combat prowess is just as good as the Helldiver. We have 2 strategic bombers available to research, the Bolo and the B-17 Fortress. The Bolo's not bad. It's pre-war though, but it's not bad. The Fortress is just definitively better though. It can go much farther. I'll research the strategic bomber. We're going to get large bomber airframes relatively quickly. What's our current strategic bomber? The B-10D. That's okay. I'll skip over the Bolo. It'll save me some time. I'll skip over the Bolo. And we'll stick with the B-10 until we get the B-17. PBY Catalina. Yeah, dude, I got to get the Catalina. That's a given. I have to get the Catalina. Exclude that. Transports. The Super Electra seems to be our best transport, has the most cargo capacity. Yeah, there's the DC-2, but nah, I think the Super Electra is going to be much better. That's probably going to be good for us for the entire, like, early war, not just pre-war period. Now we have to look at submarines. So these are more like submarine tiers, and they unlock at different times. So what's our current submarines? The Porpoise and the H-Class. The Porpoise is our best one. It's not the greatest submarine I've ever seen. The Salmon isn't much better either. So, but it does get better. It does get better. And it's going to get better bit by bit. So I'm going to exclude the Salmon. We're going to skip over that. We're going for the Sargo and then the Tambor in order. Capital ships. We either get the South Dakota, the North Carolina. I say either because I'm going to pick one. Indirect missile fire. Well, we know we don't want the pre-century cruiser. I think I usually go with the North Carolina class. It costs a little bit less to maintain, roughly the same amount to build. Its defense direct is a little worse. Actually, just all around is a little worse, but its range is much better. Yeah, so it's slightly cheaper, it's slightly older, but it can go further and it can move faster. Well, you know what? Even though I usually go with the North Carolina, I think I'm actually going to go with the South Dakota. More expensive or not. Specifically because it can defend itself from airplanes. So we're going to research the South Dakota. That's going to be our main battleship once we get it. Now we need to find a main escort ship. For the escort ship, it's actually a pretty easy choice. I'm going to go for the Benson. It's not as good against submarines as the other ones. As some of the other ones anyway. It doesn't have as long of a range, but its ability to fight other ships is way, way better. It's not the most expensive one either, so the Benson it is, and we are going to exclude all the rest of these because I don't want them, I don't need them, and I'm going to mainly pick one design for every kind of unit that I have in my military because it's going to be a little bit more efficient. We have our auto build going. Let me just, what are we making right now? Colorado class, Somers class. So we're mainly making escorts and capital ships. I'm not going to lie. Remember how I said I wasn't going to go with the U.S. military doctrine of carriers? Well, I'm not even going to produce them. I'm going to exclude them. I don't want any carriers. Because in this game, carriers are not actually that useful. They cost a lot of money, and the AI doesn't know how to use them. You have to micromanage them. And they can only carry up to like 5 air wings at a time, which is not that game-changing. So it's cool, but again, it's not that game-changing. As time goes on, I'll probably get rid of my older carriers as well. Alright, let's keep going through our designs. Patrol ships. The best thing I can research is a sloop gunboat. We already have something better? No, maybe not. Maybe we don't have something better. This doesn't seem better. Let's get rid of the SC-110. That's pointless. The Eagle class is like okay. The sloop gunboat isn't really better though. I'm going to just exclude it. We don't need to waste our precious research time on any of these. I'll get something better later on in the war, and even then, patrol boats are not that much of a problem. And we can already research some transport ships. We do not need the amphibious barge. As for these though, the Aldebaran is not so bad, but we are going to get better transports that can unload away from the dock later on. Still, I'll leave it there for now. The Samarin is a pretty decent transport ship, just base. But we already have some decent transport ships. I'll leave it there for now. I won't get any of it now. And that's all of that research done. Let's now just add some non-tradables to the queue. Fission experiments, improved power grid 3, mobile steel barges, modern highways. Okay, cool. Where is improved power grid? We must pause literally everything else because improved power grid is just that important of a research that we need to get it researching now. So I'm going to get that bumped up onto the queue. Okay, now for our actual designs that we already have. Clearly, we do not need this old militia. Engineers are okay, but we do not need 20s land-based militia. Infantry, we do not need. Marines, I am not going to use. I'll keep the Rangers here, but I don't expect the AI to actually make it. The motorized infantry and engineers here, they're not the greatest. They're not as good as Rangers, but I can make them, well, the infantry anyway, a lot faster than Rangers. And speed at the beginning here is going to be pretty vital. So I'm actually going to exclude the motorized engineers for right now because they take longer than Rangers to make, and they're not better. They're mainly better because they're engineers, but I don't need engineers for what I'm doing. So I'm going to let him pick between Rangers and infantry, but I'm fine if he picks infantry. They're not as good as the Rangers, but they are fast, and then they can keep up with our tanks and our recon and other things like that. Speaking of, right now our only real recon is the TH-3110. That's fine. Let's get rid of the motorcycle recon and the cavalry. We don't need that. Usually I go with slower foot-based soldiers in World War II playthroughs, but this time around I'm going to be going a little more motorized, a little more mechanized, because I believe it will actually work out for me in the long run. As for these tanks, the M2A2 Light's going to be our best tank unless I buy another one or until I can research a better one. We are going to just straight up exclude the CTLS. It's not nearly as good. I don't want it being made. We don't even have an anti-tank right now. We know that we're researching a better artillery already. I can... Oh, scared the shit out of me. What the hell raised the alert level? I didn't do anything. I blame him. I blame Shibi. Oi. Exclude some of these that we don't need. Yeah, let's narrow it down to just this arty, and that's going to be replaced soon anyway. A lot of this AA is honestly really, really crap. It's really, really crap, in fact. It can barely hurt air targets. So I'm going to exclude it, and we're just not going to make any more anyway. Anti-air for the time being. We'll wait till we get an actual good anti-air unit. And now we have to sort through our current interceptors. We have the F3F, and that's a pretty good biplane, you know, by biplane standards. It has really good range, in fact. Are any of these carrier-based? Actually, no. None of them are carrier-based. That's kind of surprising. Let's get rid of the FF1. We don't need that. Let's get rid of the F2F and the Hawk. We're going to stick with the F3F for the time being. Oh, and that unlocked so many other things. I'm just going to narrow us down to the F3F as our main interceptor for the time being. As for our current tactical bombers, the AI seems to like the Gamma. I see why. It goes pretty far. And it's not that expensive compared to the Vindicator and the Nomad. The Vindicator is expensive also because it goes on carriers, which, again, we are not going to care about. So I will actually get rid of the Vindicator. We do not need that. I'm going to get rid of the Shrike, the A8, the BG-1 can go, the Falcon, the BM-1 can go. Oh my god, so many older designs to sort through here. And now we're down to the Gamma and the Nomad. The Gamma can go the furthest. Its other stats aren't the greatest, but we are researching planes that are better than everything we have right now. I think I'll let him stick with the Gamma for right now. The B-10 is all we have there. We'll stick with the B-10. The Ranger. Well, the Catalina is probably going to replace just about all of these patrol planes, but let me get rid of the Seagull. Let me get rid of the OL. Yeah, the Catalina is going to replace the OL and the O2. The Corsair, we can get rid of the Corsair. The Catalina is going to replace that as well. I'm not so sure about these two. I think I'll leave them here until we get the Catalina and then review it later. Submarines, we have the Porpoise and the H-Class. We're getting rid of the H-Class. That's more of like a smaller offshore thing. Colorado is currently our best capital ship. Is it? Wait a minute. I guess it kind of is. It's older though. It's older and it's more expensive. But it is kind of our best one right now, yeah. So I'll get rid of the Brooklyn, the Wichita, I'm sure that's not how you say it, the New Orleans, the Pensacola. Oh god, so many of these. I'm going to get rid of everything except the Colorado, and then when we get to South Dakota, the South Dakota is going to be our main ship for a while. The U.S. gets pretty reliable capital ships that last all the way into the Cold Wars, honestly. Then we have the Somers, the Bagley, and the Mahan. Which one is better? Okay, so none of them are actually that great. Our AI seems to prefer the Somers, probably because of its range. It's not the most expensive one. I'll let him make the Somers then. Our upcoming escort ship that we are researching is going to essentially replace the Somers anyway, so I won't be too picky for now. Naval production is a slow, tedious thing. One thing I need to do for sure is get some military goods building. We definitely are going to need a good amount of military goods. I'm going to try to focus a lot of my industry around the center of the mainland because it's just going to be more protected all the way out here. Let's go ahead and take Hutchinson here and build a military goods factory on Hutchinson. I may also explore in this playthrough just straight up raising my infrastructure spending like to the max in order to artificially boost production of everything. Speaking of production, our agriculture is pretty good. We don't need this singular agriculture plant. We can get rid of that. Our timber is also really good, so we won't need all of these timber mills. That much is a fact. We have plenty of timber production, and it's only going to get better as our infrastructure spending raises. So I'm going to scrap all of this because it's also going to help me deal with the incoming initial early game inflation that we are going to deal with as a rich democratic country. Literally not even shutting them down, scrapping them. I don't think I will need them at all, but if we do need them later, then we will get them later. In addition, we are always going to need new research centers, so it makes sense to research a new research center. I'm going to place this new research center over in Kansas City. It's going to take a while to build, it's going to cost a lot of money, but we're going to need more research to stay ahead of the game. Let's see if he's making any new ones yet. Alright, he's not making a new one yet, so we'll have an advantage over him. We already have way more research capability than he does. Speaking of, the United Kingdom also has a lot of research we could use, and I'm going to go ahead and buy all of this right off the bat because it's going to help us. In addition, we're going to want to raise our relations with some countries here. I'm not too concerned about Canada, but like, we're going to want good relations with the UK and France. We don't want to get dragged into World War II because remember, we don't need to. But the UK, France, we're going to want to become a little friendlier with. Just in case they end up doing well in World War II, we're also going to get some amount of treaties with them. Probably the Soviet Union, because we know Germany is going to invade them, and Shibi might invade them as well. China, because we know he's going to invade them, and even though there's a way to end this PvE-wise, this is still a PvP scenario, keep in mind. There's also 3 events so far. One is the UK denies aid to France, despite growing fears of German militarization with their reoccupation of the Rhineland. British Foreign Secretary Anthony Eden today turned down French requests for military aid. That's a mistake, boy. Germany has reoccupied the Rhineland. I'm going to condemn that. And the second Italo-Ethiopian War has started. Realistically, I don't need to follow my historical routes here, but usually the UK fares pretty well by the mid to late 40s that I've seen in these playthroughs. So we'll keep the door open, right? Because these are our natural friends, and I'd like to see them triumph over our enemies. And even if they fail to triumph, maybe I could still make some friends anyway. Outside of the US, I would also like to make some friends with Australia and New Zealand. I'm just marking these for my own memory for right now. We're going to want to stay as far out of his business as possible, though, in terms of allies we acquire. South Africa would be a good ally, a good, like, in-the-middle ally to provide us a landing point of a sort. Saudi Arabia, maybe, but this is really none of my business as of right now. I don't care about any of this. I'm going to try to play this pretty insular. I'm going to try to basically dominate the Western Hemisphere, at least that's my plan right now, to make as big and strong of the United States as I possibly can, because the bigger I am over here, the less capable he will be at projecting force to conquer me. Not to mention, I also do still have colonies, which, you know, we have the U.S. Canal Zone, which is over here in Panama, so that's a good thing that we have. Let me, I don't think I needed to double click that, did I? Maybe I did. We have Guam, of course. Okay, yeah, sorting through this is going to be annoying. I know where most of these things are, but we have Guam as a colony. Now, colony means we can't directly benefit or influence them or, you know, anything like that. I could get them in the business of making their own military if I wanted to. Like, I could get them started on that road. I could exploit them for some resources if I wanted to. But I don't want to really do that too much, and most of my colonies are actually really minor. Like Puerto Rico and the Philippines are the best ones, and none of them really need the ability to defend themselves except maybe the Philippines, and their AI is never going to start making military production themselves. So I'm going to, I think, yeah, I'm going to make them a singular over here in Clark Field. Wow, that's funny. This was an airport. This was like a very important air base in World War II, yet it doesn't have an air base. That's funny. I'm going to make them a land production. By make them, I mean I'm telling them to make one, and they will make one whether they like it or not. And that way they're going to start pumping out military units, little bit by little bit. Looks like they may already have my Rangers that I have, which is good. I'll give them the design for a towed howitzer. That's all they really need as of right now. They don't have a lot of technology here for this kind of stuff, so they may not be able to pump out the best stuff, but they will research stuff. I just want them to be able to make a bare minimum tiny defensive land force. That's what I want them to be able to make, because they're right next to him, and if we go to war, they're going to feel the brunt of it, and I don't want to have to project my force over there to protect it. The US couldn't do it at the beginning of World War II, and I don't want to have to try to do it now. And Paraguay has formed a fascist regime. I don't care about that. I don't care what the hell happens here. I have to keep an eye on them to make sure I don't end up like breaking their bank. How much does it cost to actually make a land production? Up front and overall it would cost like 184 million just to make one, and then a bunch of industry goods as well. I think I'll throw them a good chunk of money to help pay for this. I'll throw them 200 million for right now, just for free. I'm going to really support the Philippines and try to make them a little self-sufficient and at least have them be able to take care of themselves. Because I don't plan on annexing them, because annexing colonies that you already have usually is not the greatest thing. No, you will never issue a new bond while I'm here, sir. I'm also going to start supporting the opposition of Haiti. I'm also going to start supporting the opposition of Liberia. And I have reasons for why I'm doing this. When it comes to rubber here, we are going to need rubber plantations. As of right now, our inflation's not crazy high, but I know we're going to need rubber plantations, and there's not a whole lot of places where I can build them to begin with. A lot of those places are, you know, on Pearl Harbor, for example, where that space is already taken. I'm going to build some rubber out here in Hawaii on Waipahu. There are some things I don't need here, like this Ind-Mid petrol power plants. I don't really like petrol power plants. I'd love to get rid of all my petrol power plants by the end of this. As our electricity tech goes up, I will be able to get rid of some things that we just don't need for electricity production. I'm going to get rid of all of our small petrol power plants right now. I'm going to get rid of all of our small coal plants right now. I'm going to leave the small hydro for the time being. I'm going to end up focusing either coal or hydro in the long run, but research alone should give me a little bit of a boost in this regard. We don't have a lot of petrol altogether, so actually canceling that out wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. Looks like industrial goods could end up being a bit of a problem as well. We are going to need more industrial goods factories. We are not going to need more consumer goods. In fact, I'm going to just scrap every mid-sized consumer goods factory we have. That will help with our inevitably rising inflation costs. We also have a singular rubber synth, which I'm just going to get rid of right now, because it's expensive to synthesize, and I don't want to have to synthesize it until later. And I'd like to avoid needing to synthesize it if possible, although that'll be a problem because there's barely any rubber for us to get. That is why I am trying to make an enemy of Haiti, because they have some rubber, and why I'm trying to make an enemy of Liberia, because they have a decent amount of rubber. Projecting my force this far would be difficult. I don't even know how we'd be able to do that over here. I feel like the easiest way would be to just land in British Freetown, yeah. So get some kind of friendship with the UK and just kind of force our way into Liberia that way. Their military should be non-existent. We should steamroll them very easily, and it's all colonies around them, so it should be fairly secure behind the UK and France until they die, if they die. And Argentina wants to buy consumer goods for an amazing price. Yeah, dude, sure, why not? The UK absolutely loves me now that I bought their technology and gave them money. Let's see about getting a whole bunch of treaties with them. Wow, we can get a full-on alliance with them if we want. We're not going to, because I do not want to get involved in their problems. But I will get everything short of mutual defense, because I want to ensure that they won't attack me. Actually, maybe I won't get non-aggression either. That sounds about right. We're going to get the friendship treaties. We're going to get line of sight so I can see what they're up to. And we're going to get full transit so that I can access their territory. I don't know if we're going to ally with them yet, so I'm going to hold off on those other treaties. But they will open up the ability for me to invade Liberia. In fact, French West Africa could do quite the same thing. We can get a little friendly with France. We're going to need a little more friendship with them first. Spain wants to buy consumer goods for a good price. Well, that's good. I think they're going to have a civil war in a few years, so I'm going to probably avoid making friends with them just yet. I don't know really how this is going to go. Ideally, I don't want to get too involved in Europe. I want to focus on myself and making my own country the strongest that it possibly could be, because we are in PvP and we don't have a sphere of victory to worry about, so it's pretty much up to me and my country. That's what matters here. Alright, so luckily he has no techs that we don't have, so we're definitively ahead. I don't know if there's a country that has something we don't have. Germany has liquid-fueled rockets. We don't have that, although he'll charge us an arm and a fucking leg for it. It would save us time if I do buy it. It's just I need to let some time pass to save up some money. Already, we can start researching our way to some better aviation tech. The P-36A Hawk, done. Tactical bombers, the P-35 or the A-29 Hudson. I feel like usually I would go with the P-35. But the A-29 Hudson, it can go farther. Its defensive stats are all around better. It's a lot cheaper. It's better at defending itself against fighters. It just doesn't go as fast, but I'm fine with that. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to not use the P-35. It's a tactical bomber. I'll get the Buffalo as a multi-role. I don't have a single multi-role yet. We can unlock the B-23 Dragon. Okay, interesting. I know I'm probably not going to want the A-22 Maryland. No, I'm not. The only reason I could really see to upgrade to the B-23 over the B-17 is because it's better at bombarding structures, which is what strategic bombers are for, but this early in the war, I don't see that that actually matters. I guess it also uses a lot less fuel, which could save me oil, so there's that. But it has higher annual maintenance fees. I guess I'll research it. It'll take some time to do that anyway. And now South Africa wants to buy consumer goods. That's good. We can see as of right now, he's not making any new military production. He's not making any research. He is making agriculture. He can't make any rubber. He's making some oil, some coal. He's making... That's about it. So he's basically just pumping out some resources as of right now. And he's a very resource-inhibited country. I'm curious how China will go. He starts out with very high tensions with China. So China might end up attacking him if he doesn't attack them. And if he gets locked into an endless war with China, like real-life Japan did, that's only good for us because it will insanely inhibit his capability to do anything. However, if he prepares well for a war with China or just straight out prevents one, that is not good. We do not want him to win a war with China. We do not want him to avoid a war with China. We want him to be endlessly locked into a war with China because China has better land capacity than him. His land force may be stronger at the beginning, but China has a lot of garrisons it can rely on, and China can cause him a lot of problems. And in fact, if China pulls such a thing off, then hell, China could push him all the way out of Korea and just back onto being an island. And if they did that, which I have seen them do in older builds of this game, but I haven't seen them do it recently, then that's really good for us. Because Manchukuo and Korea is a lot of what makes his country work right now.